and uncharacteristic for Carry to make early mistakes in the lane. So often for T1 this season, it's been about the bot lane, having successful matchups, coming out ahead. We've seen the meta of Road to MSI shift because of the new patch a bit more towards having your support roam, having your AD carry be independent, and that doesn't feel like the sort of style this iteration of T1 is as good at playing as previous iterations.
Well, we are into pick and ban here for game number 2. No switch up as far as sides are concerned. T1 had right of first selection in game 1. They keep it here by losing that game, and they have once again decided to get on towards the blue side, first pick over to Gen G. We'll see whether that develops as we move towards game number 3, but kind of curious there is no switch up of the mindset here, as the final ban on the Gen G side is going to be that Karma. That is the only deviation from game number 1. The Vi was banned from them in that slot last time. Well, and that is going to be alleviated here as T1 take away the Rise instead of the Karma.
Banning the Rise now because Cassiopeia isn't there. Now kind of deliberating because they banned Jace last time, but the Vi is available as well. And just a lot of picks in general. Sion banned, which it feels like they're trying to set up and bait Gen G into an early Jace pick with this.
It absolutely feels like that's the idea. With no Vayne, Gnar stocks are always up, but with the Jace here, it seems like a pretty obvious call for first pick here for Keen, but Keen doesn't necessarily need to get that early pick here. He's got so many answers to the Jace himself.
A pick away is what it feels like for Chovy.
This could be a triple flex if we're being honest. I know we've seen more mid, but we've seen the Anivia into Jace, we've seen the Anivia support, although it hasn't been as present in the recent meta, but keeps those options open. And also, if we do end up getting T1 taking the Jace here, Cassante is still available. Keen Sante still there, so if they were trying to bait Gen G into taking it, they have not gone for that bait.
That's the thing, I think, with Doran playing Jace, you feel like Keen has more answers than the other way around, so it feels comfortable to go for the Anivia first. Vi picked up early here might mean something like Vi Ahri. Vi Lissandra probably not feeling as great with the Anivia matchup, so we'll see what Faker has decided to go with here. Could also be Annie, but probably not. It's a little bit less common with the Vi.
Yeah, the Annie Anivia I feel like we have seen a few times, so it might be an option, but instead they're going to go with some different fire, as the Rumble will be locked away here for Doran.
And I think in this situation, Gen G could just end up going for the Cassante, for Keen, or... I mean, one thing is the Galio is not an option in this situation. We've seen the Yorick into Rumble be somewhat successful in terms of these options you have. But T1 with a lot of potential to set up a dive-heavy, engage sort of composition, which is kind of what came out.
Whoa, that's not what I was expecting, is they just slammed the Xayah Rakan.
I think both the Xayah is great into the Vi in isolation, but also we've seen Rakan Vi Rumble look really, really good, and to be able to both have that added safety and deny a Rakan follow-up for Keria with how proficient he is at that champion just feels like a 1-2 punch here from Gen G in a big pivot that I don't think T1 would have seen coming.
We'll see what the response is going to be.
Prior to this series, on this weekend, we've had 20 out of 28 of the last 4 picks be bot lane. So getting a bit of a turnaround, the fact that we're prioritizing this bot lane early on.
I thought you were telling me that we're going to have jungle Rakan and mid lane Xayah.
That could be still, but I think probably not likely.
Okay.
Akali comes in for Faker, so committing heavily to this dive-focused composition. And we saw game 1 be Gen G wanting to lead the charge, get backline access, and T1 have more control. It feels like this, the script has been flipped a bit in this one, with sort of opposite themes coming through.
Yeah, the idea here for T1 is to try to deny all sorts of peel, because you are all inning now on your burst and your setup here. That's why they take away the Wukong, could just cyclone through team fights and disrupt everything T1 is trying to do, so that makes a ton of sense. See what their final ban ends up being here. Could be the Cassante, right? But you don't necessarily want to do that when Ornn is also available and Keen's champion pool is so massive. The Yorick is still looming, as mentioned before.
And the Jarvan is still available.
Yeah, Jarvan also so good here.
It's kind of crazy that it hasn't seen any priority at all throughout this series. as it has been first pick in a whole lot of them leading up to this on this patch. Nefiri going to be taken away first.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. We originally saw Nefiri come out as a Vi counter, and it's risen in priority, but especially here, would be hard to pin down.
It's probably just maybe even an Ashe ban, right? Because it's so much single target lockdown already. When the Ashe comes through, the Vi follows up.
I wouldn't mind a Sivir either. I think Sivir is kind of okay here, especially when they do want to just run at them.
I think a little short-ranged for the Sivir in this situation.
Yeah.
Rakan and Anivia. I think Ashe makes sense. The Arrow also, as you kind of said in the first draft, good at circumventing the control that Anivia offers. You just fire the arrow, cancel the ult, and everyone can follow up. So now up to T1 to decide what they're taking into the Xayah Rakan.
I'm worried it's a Lucian lineup here. We had this exact same, not the exact same draft, but the exact same situation where it felt like FaZe was priced into playing the Lucian in the bottom lane, and it didn't work out. It's a lot of great follow-up to the Vi Rumble. The
Kalista!
Okay, I like this way more, because this is way more flexible on how it's going to team fight later on than the Lucian, which is super binary and falls behind, can't really function.
I mean, it's a similar story with the Kalista, who is largely aimed towards the mid-game, but the mobility is going to be there. It's just what Gen G is now going to augment this composition with in order to make this Kalista's life hard.
What about
Maokai would be one of those.
Or even Poppy jungle could work here. As
it's a lot of magic damage in the mid jungle, so the synergy between Chovy and Canyon not exactly going to be outstanding.
Those
but
upgraded Merc treads for Faker will go very hard.
Very hard indeed. But now a top lane pick for Keen. We're expecting the Cassante, but maybe something with a bit more damage could work out here.
Yeah, you
might have a pseudo tank already.
Might need an AD threat, so they end up going towards the Yorick. That does provide a good amount of AD damage, even though there's a decent amount of magic from the Yorick too. And it is looking just to be the Kalista Renata. I'm coming out of this one and once again feeling like T1 have the edge in terms of draft. This time it's Gen G with more the control element, trying to keep that backline safe, but T1, I think the bot lane matchup is so tough for Ruler and Duro to deal with. Kalista can just skirt around the Grand Entrance, the Feathers, the mid jungle as well. So much potential to get on top of Chovy, and Merc Treads are just going to make that mid jungle so hard to match into when Faker gets them upgraded. Hard to stun him, hard to get damage down with that free shield.
Now for me, I look at it the other way. I think that Gen G has so many forms of peel. Between the Xayah ultimate, Rakan can peel, Chovy's got Egg, right? There's Nature's Grasp, and even the Ghoulie Wall can be utilized to try to prevent that follow-up, so it can make T1's composition a little bit more disjointed. That's why I like the Kalista, though, because even though Kalista doesn't always do well if she doesn't get ahead early, they've got a good lane for it, and it also does consistent damage in team fights and can be cleanup that Lucian often struggles to do, and the Kalista obviously has a lot of additional power around Fate's Call.
Not to mention, Paze actually has the kill record at MSI on Kalista.
Yeah, I was going to mention that as well. He is really good at this pick. With how game one went and how defensively Gen Z were able to basically weather the storm and then turn into an oppressive comp, I worry that might happen again here with what T1's put together.
We'll just have to find out. I do feel like there is a lot of cohesion between the champions here on T1's side, but we'll see whether the players can mirror that as we get into the Rift here for game number 2. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the Rift for the second game of this best of 5. T1 looking to even out the scoreline like they did successfully against Halma Life Esports on Friday. And Gen G wanting to move to match point, try and stamp their ticket towards Daejon already.
This is interesting. We're seeing from Chovy the Deathfire Touch. We normally get Electrocute from our Anivias in the mid lane.
Yeah.
We've seen a little bit of both, but it definitely has been more Electrocute focused, especially in matchups like this where you're laning into someone who has Electrocute and you want to be able to match that extra burst damage. So I do find that quite interesting. I think it has to be said that Faker's Akali has been incredible this year.
Especially in best of 5s.
Yeah, it is just a thing of beauty, and I think there's a lot of confidence in this draft for T1 as a result of it. A lot of comfort picks here, including Doran's Rumble. So, you know, this is a draft that feels like it is incredibly T1 build, right? It is a draft they have such good mastery of. So maybe that'll be enough to get them across the line. As we expected, and as everyone knows, this Kalista lane is going to rule the day here on the bottom side in these early few levels.
It just shows how much comfort T1 has on the rest of the map that you don't even mention the Callista Renata for Pays and Carrier as well. Like, there is ultra comfort here for T1. I think it's a great mindset to have moving into a game 2 after you lost pretty convincingly in the first one, right? It's like, let's get back to basics. Let's do stuff that we really know. And so far, so good.
Interestingly, the Pays not going for the cleanse, and a lot of time you see barrier for the early trades, the tempo barrier I've seen so often. The cleanse value pretty high here, and particularly because Ruler's taken exhaust.
Yeah.
So if you had cleanse for that, would have a lot of value. Olin comes in here.
Yeah, that's the heal out as Ruler and Duro holding on to theirs, and in fact, looks like they will not need to expend it. T1 will chase them down. You've got a Maokai in the area, spotted on a ward.
Actually, think
back away.
The position there from Ruler was really good because Pays was trying to like hop around the feathers, but they were against the wall, so he had nowhere really to go.
They have such an advantage right now because they have heal. The exhaust makes it difficult to all in with bailout, and Maokai's here. So actually, they regain control really quickly of this bottom side 3v3.
And I kind of want to go back to the draft again. I know we've been talking about it a lot, but talking about this series as a whole, I feel like the value of the Xayah Rakan pick-away cannot be understated. Because Carrier was unbelievable on the Rakan pick. Duro had a great game on it yesterday as well, don't get me wrong. But now you've denied that from T1 to have that comeback game where Carrier really pops off on this champion. Obviously, he has a lot of others, but it's just another reason why I kind of liked what Gen.G did with their bottom lane early pickup.
I think 100% Carrier picks it up if they don't take it away there for the Rumble Vi. We've seen this so many times by Rakan, but with the Rumble on top, it's just so easy. T1 are utilizing this early prio here in the top lane really well as Doran starting to finally chip away at this first plate. But otherwise, it's all quiet on the Rift. Ruler and Duro got through the toughest part of this early laning phase. We'll see what happens when we start getting to these first few objectives as Dragon spawns in 1 minute's time.
Yep. So far, just some more laning to be happening here. Ruler trying to get some of these feathers down, successfully does so. Once again, not using his own skin, which kind of makes me a little bit sad, but going for the Skinergy there alongside Duro this time.
Gotta have the matching skins, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. That's all right. Chovy and Faker just going to be laning against one another. You can see this time around Chovy having a better time in the early laning phase, but that is to be expected in the ranged versus melee matchup, as he's just flapping around having a good time. Not going to quite find that Flash Frost, but not going to be the end of the world. Faker throws down the Twilight Shroud, and we'll just now look for a little bit of a reset angle, potentially clearing out that wave comfortably.
There's a ping coming through. I think T1 are looking to invade here. They have Prio in the bot lane, or at least get some vision down and find Canyon.
Yeah, well, they will be able to find him there with the Scryers. He's looking for the Grump, although might actually forego that. Owner moves over towards this first dragon, a very early one, as it only just spawned. Canyon coming down, throws a sapling in that brush. Doesn't exactly know where Owner is, but has a sneaking suspicion.
Owner has double smite, so he can smite the beginning of the dragon and finish with smite here, so he can rush it very quickly with the prio they have, and I just don't think there's any time to muster a contest. Chovy's already backed in mid lane, and this should just be break secured.
Yeah, I think the Chovy recall was the thing that really cemented that, because if Ruler, Duro, and Canyon had looked into contest, even though it's risky against the Callista, they potentially could have, but with Chovy gone, there was just no way, with the potential of Faker moving down on the Akali. So early Dragon pickup from T1, very early in this game.
And it's once again, we're doing the Earth, Wind, and Fire track. Not going to be the same order this time around, as we'd need a Mountain Soul for that, as now Canyon gets the ward down. Good Shuriken backflip is going to be there as the handshake comes through. And Duro trying to keep himself alive, but it's not quite working. Owner doesn't find the Vault Breaker, as Ruler still desperately trying to get out of here, but it's not going to work. Pays rips out the sticks, and down goes the Xayah. First blood to T1 this time.
Not enough value for the exhaust on the turnaround there. Ruler has a good feather call, but that is all he has. Too isolated down there on the bottom side. Doesn't have a barrier, and is just not able to fight his way out of that one. But this is, again, a numbers advantage here, as look at where Chovy is on the rotation down. Super late here. And yes, Canyon could deny Faker entry with some help from Duro, but it doesn't matter when the Xayah is just getting Callisted there on the bottom side.
Yeah, and doesn't bring the sums, because even though Pays was low and the exhaust could have kept Ruler alive longer, Pays still had barrier, would have just been a waste, so holds onto those for now. Keen trying to catch Doran out there with the baby cage, but it's unsuccessful.
Yep, actually doing a great job on this Yorick so far here in this lane. We've seen this go a few different ways, right? It can be relatively even, but we have seen the Yoriks have a pretty good time into the Rumble as well. And so Keen is mimicking more that one this time around as he's hitting ease. And that is obviously the way that you win. Does have a slight gold advantage as a result. Gold, though, is pretty even, basically. You've got Chovy being able to pull ahead as far as farm, with Faker going for that roam, but the bot lane is going to be in a great spot here for T1, so a much more even affair this time, instead of Gen G just kind of running away with the game from a very early mark in Game 1.
And I think, unlike last game, T1 have been able to play to their win cons, step by step, hitting every benchmark with the early game Kalista going very well, leading to a very fast, on spawn, essentially, Dragon for Owner. The bottom side prior they budgeted so much for in this draft is getting them the leads they want to have, that they need to have. Grub's on the top side here. Canyon has control there right now, so that may be the trade-off here, which is very valuable when you have a Yorick on the top side of the map. But yep. T1, see what they do. They are sending Owner over right now to at least try to deny one of those.
Yeah, Owner is going to be spotted by the sapling as Canyon looking to get himself out of there. Holds that health bar as high as he possibly can. But this is the problem. Keen has full priority. In the top lane, Doran just ulted the minion wave.
Yeah, they can't fight this.
Yeah, to get some tempo back. And because that ult is now on cooldown, this is just not a realistic option. Double grubs going over to Gen G. Looks like it is going to be a consolation grub to go over, as that will be the 2-for-1 in favor of Gen G as far as that is concerned. But because of that really, really early Drake, it did give T1 the ability to actually come over and contest, which they otherwise wouldn't have had.
And I do think at least getting one grub on that situation, considering Doran was pushed in, low HP, had just ulted the wave, I think the fact they get one is at least something out of the situation.
Level 6 for both of these bottom laners, but not really an all-in timing. Duro and Ruler do have the wave advantage right now. Canyon does have Nature's Grasp and is somewhat nearby, so certainly could be an opportunity if they could bait T1 in here, but I think this is just going to be a little bit of a look-in.
Like so often, the hallmark of Maokai has just been that ult bot lane. As you walk in from the side, it covers the whole lane. That's been such a common play. Faker...
Oh, stun going to connect the flash forward from Chovy as Faker is going to get out of there. Holds onto the flash, though. So Chovy with a little bit of an overestimation of his damage potential.
Doesn't have Electrocute proc in that final shot. If you look at his items, he certainly doesn't have a lot of ability power right now either. And I think Faker just...
It's like Catalyst. It throws a little rocket in.
I think Faker at this point was just able to realize there's not enough damage there. He doesn't panic and he walks it off.
Yeah, it doesn't burn his flash or ultimate. So Faker feeling really good about the situation now with Chovy being down flash. If Owner wants to show up mid, Chovy could be a target, or for this Dragon in 30 seconds, if Gen G want to contest it, then mid laner will be vulnerable.
Well, let's see whether Owner can get over there and lock this one down, going for a reset prior. If that is going to be first item collected, then that is going to be a big advantage for the Vi, and I hazard to guess that the Sundered Sky is coming in. There it is, Rageblade also done for Pays, as Doran throws down the Equalizer once again. Man, he has been defensively equalizing all the time this game, as the Maiden is going to be taken out. Keen not protecting her that well.
Canyon showing on the top side here, so I feel like T1 has kind of free reign to set up for this Dragon.
Yeah, and I think that Doran's going to just escape here, likely. Sapling will just barely get him to have to stay. They need to get something crossed if we're going to give this Dragon up. I mean, it's double Dragon here again with very valuable elementals.
That's a teleport to the top lane from Carrier, though. He does have the Unsealed Spellbook to allow him to get up there, but still, Owner is sticking with this Dragon.
I think that's enough. That Unsealed Spellbook pick gets him the defense there, denies Canyon, and they get double Dragon into Chemtech's Soul.
That feels so rough, the fact that it's the double Dragon that you secured, you put the priority on it early, and then it's a Chemtech Soul, which doesn't bolster your composition.
It's great for Kalista, though.
It does help out Kalista. That is true.
Especially with Bailout.
It's for sure not the one you were hoping for with this heavy investment towards the bot side of the map.
Yeah, and Gen G are going to double down on this top side as Ruler is looking to grab some extra plates. Pays doing the same thing in this bottom lane, as we can see here, just ripping through these plates himself. Things very even as far as farm is concerned, but that first blood going a long way for this Kalista. Now augmented with a bunch of extra money as he takes crockery from these structures. And Ruler is now going to have to back away, scries some stuff first before he does head back home. First items, though, have been collected by both of our 80 carries.
I think going back to the Chemtech soul point, for T1, it's not necessarily about the soul you're looking for. It's about how much you want Genji to force fights for it when you're at your strongest in mid-game with mid-game Akali and mid-game Kalista, right? And that's where you want to be forcing Genji in those uncomfortable fights. And Genji can look at this and say, you know, I will give you soul point if we don't like that fight, because we're going to scale up with our Xayah, with our Anivia, and we're going to be more powerful later. The fact that it's not a Hextech soul point, for example, gives Genji the ability to say no. Yeah, and I think that's what feels so unfortunate about this, because T1 right now, they have a significant gold lead here, but they need to win team fights with that gold lead to hold on to it, to maintain that advantage. And if Genji avoid those fights, that's when it gets a little bit trickier.
Yeah, Leandres is now done for Canyon as well on this first strike Maokai. And so even though Oner does have a bit of a gold advantage, over time, I think the Canyon should be able to comfortably move back into an okay position.
I think ironically, this sort of game pace and the slowing down of how the early game has progressed is really what T1 wanted last game with their composition they had there. And Genji kind of demonstrating when you are playing that more slow-paced, controlled composition where you have picks that want to come online later, this is how you just avoid interacting where possible.
Yep. Trade things back and forth as much as you can. 2 minutes on the Herald. That might be the next opportunity for T1 to start themselves a fight. But the problem is, I feel like in the last game, Doran versus Keen was much more volatile. This does feel like Keen just has control of this wave over and over again, despite the fact that Doran does have a lot of money towards that top side. Keen is just making things work on this Yorick, very close to that first item. And over time, will just become more and more of a menace in the side lane, able to get map control for Genji when it could otherwise slip away, like you mentioned, based on the compositions.
Very quiet mid-game, favors T1. Or sorry, Genji, rather.
I was going to say, they're looking potentially for Chovy in the bot lane. Oner was just hovering around. Chovy's flash about to come up, and we so often see those plays made just before someone's flash becomes available, but he plays defensively, Canyon moves over, and nothing's to come for it. Faker now has that Gunblade spike, which is so significant on Akali. The all-in potential, very hard to deal with, but as you said, we'll just slow and calm, exactly what Genji need.
Yep, now Chovy going back to base. We'll see what he's going to be able to complete here, as he has completed the quest. Probably wants to get boots 2, so he can immediately get some boots 3, and that is going to come on through. So some Swifties have been fully upgraded. This bird going to be flapping around as quickly as she possibly can.
Chovy the only gold lead on the Rift right now. It's pretty small, but it's the only one that Genji has, and he's scaling up. Xayah is scaling up. Xayah has exhaust for safety later on too, making it more difficult to kill her. On top of her already safe ultimate, all the peel tools we mentioned. Right now, we're looking at this game talking about the Kalista lead, right? The explosive power of the mid-game for T1. Ruler has a heavy responsibility to use these peel tools and to be able to judge both his positioning, but his timing of his ultimate. We saw a pretty funky angle from him on this pick yesterday. Hopefully, he'll have those aimed the right way this time around. As it is going to be very critical for Genji, if they're going to win this game, for him to play incredibly well when we get to that stage. We're not there yet, as T1 have full control over this Herald. And as we've been talking about, Genji just opt out because they do not want to give T1 an opportunity to say that 1,000 gold lead just turned into a 3,000 gold lead on a flipped fight.
And now they can use this time to get a bit of positioning around this dragon spawning in 20 seconds. Don't necessarily need to contest it, but they can threaten, get some saplings down, maybe if they see someone out of position, or just gather information and be wary of T1 before they move in. You can see now Oner trying to make his way forward.
Yeah, he's actually going to be able to get into that river brush, as the saplings are really starting to do some work.
Leandres
one item, strike. But it is it's certainly working. Like you were saying, that first strike really looking like it's getting some work done, as the Trinity Force is going to come on through alongside Keen, teleporting into the bot lane. As Genji wanting to deny the soul point, Faker is going to be spotted here by Keen. Combat Herald down, and it's a lot of damage. Yeah, like you were saying, there is the Combat Herald as Canyon flashes out of the way, but he's still going to get knocked up. As Shelly getting a lot of work down. He sips the sap, but it's not going to work. Down goes the Kalista. The bailout is in for pace. Gets the reset, but Keen is massive. Duro and Chovy on the other side of the fight. They're in a lot of trouble. And Oner is going to let his fist do the talking. Still Keen is in there, trying to take him down. And the egg, will it stay alive? The flash out from Chovy. He is able to keep himself up, and now Keen in a 1v1 with Faker. He finds another Morning Mist, and this Yorick is a behemoth.
Keen is just an absolute monster. I think the two biggest things for Gen G that kept that fight even was his Yorick just running around, smashing skulls.
With a maiden!
As well as Blade Caller as well had so much impact. A fight that T1 definitely felt like they should be winning with the Combat Herald as well. But in the end, it's Keen who comes in strong. And we're going to get a refight for the Dragon.
Yeah, good handshake there from Carrier as Doran's looking to move his way back, but he hasn't been back to base yet. And these ghouls, man.
I think this is just Gen G's Dragon. There's just no two ways about it. T1 not able to make it happen here.
Yeah, Ona was not on the Krugs, by the way. He was like, no, guys, we're not doing that.
Initially, I thought with this fight, Gen G had maybe overstepped, right? They didn't have to fight for this. They had been so measured in all of the other fights leading up to this, but they play it out so well. Combat Herald comes down, Canyon backs away here. Flash buys him some space, but then you see what happens with Ruler on the right side of this fight. Ult comes out, good pullback.
Yeah.
Look at that, the double there. Denying pays the bailout. And then from here on out, yes, T1 have the numbers advantage, but they don't have a great way to deal with Keen's sustain as he just rips through this fight. The egg buys time. I think Gen G judged that they had enough here so well. It was on a knife's edge, but they played it confidently, and they barely walk out ahead.
Also, that ghoulie wall position, so Ona couldn't flash over the actual wall, was so good. They needed the Kalista alive to deal with the Yorick, and just some great team fighting from Gen G. And Chovy, he's the master of minions.
He really is. His own and the opponents, as he will just force them on a merry goose chase. Faker not exactly going to notice too much of a difference in the wave state, but it was a very cute little maneuver. Pays does have his static shiv now, as he's gone for that after the Rage Blade. Pretty good item on this patch at the moment. Is now Keen getting focused down by Ona. Cease and desist comes in. The Maiden getting involved as well. And Keen, I think, will be burning down. And there he goes on the cross map. Faker trying to keep himself alive. As the smite comes in, Twisted Advance is down. And Faker no chance of getting out of that one with Dura joining the party.
Oh, a turret has already gone down here in the bottom lane for T1. It's going to take Gen G a lot of time to get one in return, and Ruler's not going to be able to defend himself here alone, so there's going to be some tough calls made for Gen G. They are going to commit to that topside turret and trade, but T1 can match that and actually look for almost a second one here, as well as mid-side prio, so T1 getting a lot in this instance here on that initial pick. And yes, Faker dies, but T1 are still getting more.
Also, it's a 3-0 Yorick that they managed to take out, so T1 making a good practice play, even though Gen G, once again, cross-mapping, going for the trades. T1 are the ones who end up getting the edge in this situation. That being said, Doran stays with the tower.
I mean, he's not actually going to get punished. It looks like Dura might be able to get over here, but no one else is in the vicinity.
Yeah, that was close. Canyon was heading over, Chovy as well, but perfect timing to get it and get out.
They knew Canyon didn't have ult, and I think that was a good judgment from Doran, or whoever made the call to tell him to stay there, and they are able to just barely get the maximum value there. And if you look comparatively what Chovy was able to get their top side, only 2 of the inner turret plates.
And now, I mean, Doran has 2 items. He is very, very scary on this Rumble and has a slight gold lead. And after that last team fight, I was expecting Keen to just run away with this game. Things a lot more even on that top side than we expected. Still, T1 with a slight gold advantage as the Baron has spawned. Keen going to get his hand shook, looks for the ghoulie wall as it is often about Keen getting killed and then going on a rampage afterwards. Not going to happen this time around. So a bit of a difference between this game and the last one is occurring once again as Doran comes on over here, watches as that plate falls down, but is able to incinerate that minion wave. Get a little bit of tempo back here for T1 as they move to 1,000 gold in the advantage.
So much of Gen G's agency is on the Nature's Grasp cooldown, whether it can be used defensively to secure an objective or to siege and look for a pick.
Ruler is doing a lot of damage with these 2 items now completed. It's getting a little bit scary.
One thing that's a real conversation. Oh, Faker.
Yeah, might be in trouble. Goes into the Shroud. The Keen is moving down. Nature's Grasp is going to collect him. And now he's going to ult to try and get himself away. The rest of T1 are going to show up, but he gets the ultimate to get himself out of there. Still won't have that if there is going to be a fight coming up. 1 minute until the Chemtech Dragon is going to come on in. And Gen G maybe looking for this outer turret mid lane, but even that feels a little bit too scary.
Some big tools baited out there by Fake and able to evade it without even bidding his flash, which is pretty good going into that next fight around the Dragon. I will say one thing is that normally we've had Blade the Ruin King built early on Kalista, giving you that extra sustain. But going the Shiv route that applies those on hits, obviously very powerful, but you don't have as much sustain into this Maokai. And whenever the saplings hit, it feels so painful. That poke, very relevant, especially when you're trying to move up and contest this vision.
Especially when you don't have a tank to eat the saplings, to clear vision, and to go through those brushes. It might often just be Vi or Carrier's job here to eat that damage so you can go into the fight at full health. I do think the Shiv is incredibly valuable at getting Prio to be first on objective, because that's what T1 needs. And so while that trade-off is big, I think it's the right call here for FaZe, as Canyon does have his ultimate backup. They have this defensive setup here where they can use the ult to deny T1 access or look to force a fight if T1 want a challenge. This is a very tough moment for T1. It might be the beginning of the sunset of this composition if they fail this fight.
Well, Faker makes his way over. His ulti just came off cooldown, but once again, Keen is going to find him, and oh my goodness, these Qs are doing so much work.
That's ult burn by Faker.
Yeah, he's out of there already.
Oh, Keen is doing such a good job of just keeping this Akali accountable. And with Faker burning his ult to get out of the Ghoulie wall, T1 pull away from the fight. It's 2 dragons apiece, even though the Chemtech Soul isn't the biggest win condition. It's slowing the game down once again. Gen G, they know exactly what they want out of this game.
Absolutely. That positioning of the Ghoulie wall there for Keen was a game changer, but the fact that they were first on the dragon was essentially checkmate, because T1 could not approach. It was just way too risky.
Maokai and Nivea first to the play does feel very unfair.
When you got a Rakan there as well.
Yeah.
And if you want to try to get on top of that AD carry, he's got ult and flash and exhaust, so
and
very
Graves
tough.
Keeper at like 1 billion health, in a very good position as well. Feel like Keen really having a great day so far today, but T1 hold on to a gold advantage. They got those first 2 dragons, so the fact that Gen G have taken the last couple doesn't mean quite as much, especially in combination with the fact that it's a Chemtech Soul, so not exactly the most sought after. But I do think Gen G utilize it pretty well.
Kobe just got his Rod of Ages level up, so he's now level 16. 2 levels above Faker, and has that rank 3 ultimate, which is a big problem for T1.
And where does Faker lane as well? Because laning into this Yorick just feels impossible for basically anyone. But the Anivia is difficult to deal with as well, like you were mentioning. That level advantage really does
setup here, so easy if they want to trigger it.
Oh, Faker looking for an angle, but once again, the saplings are going to find their mark, and it's the slow that's the most devastating here, stopping the Akali from getting on top.
And they're just buying time. Like, Ruler's IE is coming up soon. Yeah. You know, that's all they really need. And with 3 minutes till the next dragon, he should be able to have it for that. And I don't think T1 can look for a Baron start before then either. If they could get vision, if they could get Prio and try to look for the double smite with Kalista Rend, maybe getting the Baron could be what keeps them in this game. But otherwise, their clock feels like the hourglass is running out of sand here.
And you see how they try and collapse in on mid when Gen G are pushing up, but with that mid tower still being there, they can just retreat back. You're never diving in Anivia Maokai on the tower, and instantly the pressure negates. They're trying to break out of this setup that Gen G is playing right now. The Yorick, as you said, in the side lane, such a major problem.
And I do think that the sun hasn't set on this T1 composition just yet, but they're going to need to make something happen. They're going to need to find an avenue to get this fight working. Maybe that classic T1 Baron is going to be the angle.
Look at Ruler doing blue buff right now. They're just giving him all the money so he can get that IE as fast as possible.
Understandable. And the only big advantage here in this game is Ona over Canyon. And I don't think Canyon really minds too much. He just wants to press an ultimate button and CC a few targets and then maybe even go down. Ona will be imperative, will have the GA coming up pretty quickly.
Now he's on Wolves. Ruler is just hard farming right now. Got red, got blue, got Wolves, got wave, and he's just rotating around, taking all the gold.
Ooh,
and I think they're just
done for FaZe, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe an angle. Now just looking for this outer turret in mid lane. Ruler going to burn down the flash out. And the cease and desist not actually going to be pressed here as Chovy now potentially in trouble. Faker liking this matchup a lot more as there is the perfect execution and gets the egg. But he's in range of the turret and is not going to be able to take down Chovy on this Anivia just yet, but gets him ready for the next bout.
Ruler decides to flash instead of ult, which I think is correct because it's more value for a potential fight he thought T1 might look to take after his flash was burned there. He has IE now. He doesn't have his flash.
Ghoulie wall comes in, and Keen says, well, I think I'm going to have to get out of here. FaZe was on his way down. I don't know whether they would have even been able to kill him, to be honest, but good respect.
I think that Kalista is the one pick that has to sustain damage to actually cut through this Yorick, and it's why... I mean, we haven't had many fights this game. We haven't had many actual 5v5s, but if Kalista is alive, that is the only person who can really shred...
I think Gen G are doing a Baron. Like, they are like, I have Maokai ult, T1 cannot get there. A positional prio, we talked about it so many times. Ruler doesn't have flash, but it won't matter if they can never touch him.
This ward is pretty ridiculous, though, from T1, as Chovy going to get engaged on. He flashes out of the way. There's a Nature's Grasp. Zona separates himself. The hostile takeover, gigantic, but once again, Keen is going ballistic. Pay's trying to dash around the fight and does Mega Cone his way out, and it's T1 that find every angle, and only Canyon is left alive.
T1 punished Gen G for going for the aggressive Baron. Chovy was on the front line with no egg, and they immediately target him. Pays kiting like his life depends on it, and it absolutely did.
Watch Owner when he goes in here as well, as they initially catch Chovy, flashes on him, despite the charmed defensive attempt there from Duro. Jovi's taken out. Equalizer here, decent. Even though the feathers come through, Pays is able to fight his way out, kite his way out. He's got the bailout rolling, and that's the T1 magic right there. Gen G, I thought that was checkmate. They got Maokai. They have so much peel. Ruler has ult. There's no way T1 get in, but they make it work. And Owner has a clutch play to follow up on the catch onto Chovy. And now they're going to look for their soul point here finally after picking up Baron. And now they're 3.5 thousand gold ahead. Pays' Kalista is crazy. He's got QSS online from that fight. T1 really in control. We were worried maybe the sun was setting, but it's certainly burning bright right now.
And also now, Faker, level 16 with Flash. Chovy and Ruler, no Flash is available. Only Duro, and Gen G has his. If someone oversteps, missteps, Faker can just take them out. We saw how much damage he did earlier to Chovy to force his egg.
Yeah, and then the whole game might just be over, right? T1 with Baron and access to the base could just mean that this one is just going to be gone, especially with Doran and Faker doing a lot of turret damage as well if they are left alone. And not to mention, of course, Pays, who is just an absolute machine. Still, 4,000 gold isn't insurmountable, but it is starting to feel like Gen G are falling that little bit too far behind, right? This is the kind of snowball that this T1 composition absolutely wanted to have.
This is the momentum they were lacking for most of this game, that really a composition like this once, and Gen G had been able to negate and shut down. And I think what's going to be a little bit frustrating is the fact that the Baron was started by Gen G. I think maybe the thought process was we can force a teleport here, and that can be enough. And now Equalizer coming down on the tower.
Yeah, handshake is good. Featherstorm going to be invested here by Ruler. That is a big cooldown, exactly what T1 wanted.
Yeah, and I think when Owner charging his Q and his ult available, if he doesn't press R there, he probably just dies, and letting the turret go is the correct call. But now he has another safety tool lost, and T1 still have a whole minute of Baron here. They want this inhibitor.
Yep, they're going to take the Maiden as well, as Canyon looking for a little bit of a potential engage. Ghoulie wall, and the actual wall! He's going to get the GA out of Owner and probably secure his life as well. Hostile takeover doesn't find the angle this time as Pays is behind the base gates. He is in so much danger. The bailout not going to work as Ruler stays just barely alive. Carrier going to fall, and T1's Baron will stop there.
What a beautiful play from Gen G on the punish. The wall was great.
There are so many things they can build. What game is this?
And Ruler is able to just realize that as long as I walk away here and they can't get me, the bailout doesn't go through, then it's over as Pays tries his hardest. But initially here, it's the catch on to Owner. They get the root, Ghoulie wall, and regular wall. Dash is interrupted, as you say, and then Pays is like, I gotta get in here and carry this fight, but they get the charm on him, they put him in the bouncy castle. When the bailout comes through, Ruler pieces out.
You know what?
Says, you cannot kill me. You're not gonna get that extra auto damage to look for the Ren to finish.
I'm going to say it.
Say it.
No, he didn't. He didn't need to do that. They could have just let Owner die, and that wouldn't be good, but it wouldn't be that bad. But they
No, but you know what happens? Pays keeps a friend. Okay? Owner's like, thanks, man. You didn't have to do that. You know?
He really didn't.
And now they're still buddies.
That gold, just the spike up and the immediate spike down.
I just think that there's a feeling or a tendency, especially with a lot of our LCK teams right now, this road to MSI in particular, including our play-ins, of desperation, of feeling that your comp needs to win now, that has led to leads being tossed away. And they had such a proactive moment that they had the GA. They thought, okay, we should be able to siege this up. Let's get kills. You get the inhibitor, but you get kills. You actually just win the game right there. And I think their eyes were too big for their stomach, and the punish was so swift from Keen and Chovy there. And Pays felt like he had to salvage it. He felt like he had to do that because if they lost that, they lose too much control over the map. And then Gen G stabilized again off of just one pick, and they thought, we have to force. But I agree, they did not, and they chose to, and now Gen G are back in the driver's seat a little bit here. Still down on gold, but we've already discussed so much about the compositions, and those flashes are back up. Ruler's got his flash back up. Chovy's about to have his.
Oh, Faker looking for an angle towards Chovy as he does dash on in. There's a grand entrance, and Faker is just taken out. Ruler finds the feather, and the Akali falls. Gen G now with a huge leg up here. 1 minute until the Dragon.
Duro's presence there was a difference maker. Faker knew Ruler was there, saw Chovy, thought, I can take him out, but Duro's charm denies the chance of the play, and now Gen G have full control over the map. If you want to try and move in and contest this Dragon, it's going to be so hard. The saplings are getting thrown down. You're going to get choked out of your own jungle.
Yeah, I think Gen G want more than just the Dragon here, too, but they're struggling to find a siege angle here with Canyon.
Oh, Duro, he's Rakan.
Duro has had so many great peel moments this game, including on that base defense we just saw. He's 9 out of 10 KP. He's popping off on this Rakan pick, which has been so essential to their ability to deal with this composition. We talked about all the peel tools, but they're starting to really feel like they're being realized in this game. 15 seconds of Dragon spawns. Gen G don't get further any control. They don't look for the Nature's Grasp siege on a turret, but they will get Soul Point here and bring us to a 3-3 7-elemental game.
Yeah, T1 are pushing now through bot lane. They can't go through the jungle. Takes too long, too many saplings. They're going straight through bot.
Gonna look for the fight.
It's going to be so hard to secure, so I think the fight afterwards is what they're going to have to look for, as the wall just prevents them from going anywhere near this. As Ona gets in there, he's able to actually get towards his straight. The equalizer, fantastic. It's Canyon that secures it. Ona goes down, as well as now Carrier in trouble. It is going to be Pace pulling out those sticks, grabbing that first kill. And Gen G's health bars are going lower and lower. Faker finds Ruler as Pace going to be taken down. Pace finally unleashed as he picks up the double. And Chovy trying to run away those Swifties, getting some work done. As once again, will be able to put up that wall, but I think Faker might be able to find him. As Chovy not able to get the angle on the stun, and now needs to keep flapping to get himself out of the way of this one.
It's gonna get another Q though. It's got vision.
Jovi's TP is nearly up. Oh,
hang on, wait, he's just buying so much time though.
Yeah, this is actually such a win for Gen G. Even if he dies ultimately, he has his egg too.
Carrier has the CC, but he can TP in the egg. If Handshake's gone.
Yeah, there's the egg. And Doran just goes for the golden burn to take out the Anivia. 420 gold over to him.
The thing is, even though he bought time, which allows the rest of Gen G to get up, him going down that late means T1 have ample time for the Baron. But here, this fight, Ona forces his way in to get access to the Dragon and just gets melted by Gen G so quickly as a result. But so many tools committed early means that Paze is able to teamfight freely. We even see Carrier interrupting Duro and stopping him from getting a quickness down onto Paze, and now Paze is just running rampant. It tights away then, cleanses the stun from Chovy.
Paze and Faker dance through the fight together with the timing there of the stasis from Faker, allowing him to do the damage, then get out safely. The Paze follows up some damage, and then it's the execution from Faker in the final moment there. The DPS duo working together in tandem so incredibly well. The Baron goes over to T1 now. They're back in control of this game. Level 20 hit for Doran, and now they're looking to break open more of the space.
Yeah, they haven't been able to kill the Rumble all game long. He's 4-0-8. Even though Keen was an absolute monster in this one, the Rumble has turned out to be the walking barbecue that T1 needed. And that has allowed Pace to get so much work done. The equalizers in these team fights have been game-changing.
The problem is, though, this Baron, we saw what happened in the last one when Ona tried to get on a tower and hit it, and how difficult it was and how he easily got punished. You're playing a composition where your longest range champion is a Kalista. Sieging is not easy into this Gen G composition, so I just don't think they're going to make much headway in terms of pushing into the base.
Not to mention, if you push too far, the Maokai finds that angle, you all get rooted, 100%. You get stuck, and you get punished and die. Not to mention, also, there are flank teleport wards that they know they're trying to find all of, but they know they probably haven't gotten every single one of them. There are a few here that aren't necessarily designed for that, but could be utilized as such if they do push up too far. So T1 have to be measured and really, frankly, let the minions do most of the work, which allows Gen G to slow this down and look for clear in all three lanes. They have an Anivia, so it is really rough for T1 here without getting kills to actually look for this inhibitor. They do have a big stacked wave in mid now. They're going to transfer that pressure into this bottom lane.
I think importantly, the Anivia is not here for the bottom lane, so they feel a lot freer. The Maokai are going to come down, though, and that will just force them off. They can clear out that wave.
That is still a decent amount of damage onto Owner. The equalizer comes in, and that's going to be a lot as well. Still, Dura going to be there to try and help keep his teammates' health bars safer. That is going to be successful for now. Ruler's health bar still full. And man, 6 Elemental Drakes so far. The next one, 1 minute 20. And finally, the Chemtech Soul will come in. The Rebel Baron power play sitting at 1,400. Not a whole lot has been gained since that Baron did go down. It's still a 4,000 gold lead, but as we crest towards the 40-minute mark, 4,000 gold just doesn't really feel like it means all that much. Both of these 80 carries sitting on 5 items each. And Gen.G still in with a fighting chance. T1 going to have to keep it tight if they want to take this one, but the war of attrition being won by them for, so far.
And Inhibitor looking like it is starting to really take some big hits here from those cannon minions empowered by the Baron, and Doran is just empowering that here. Gen.G look like they will barely get the defense. No, they decide not to.
Yeah, a cannon will go down, so the Inhibitor in the mid lane is going to fall.
But you're fine with that. Honestly, I think Gen.G okay with that mid lane Inhibitor, having the super minions pushing in, gives an extra source of farm compared to your opponent, because those minions will just push by themselves, and mid easy to handle. Dragon up in 30 seconds. Nothing really changing from the Baron that T1 were able to take. And once again, we're looking to see these two teams throw down and play for the Dragon Soul.
Yep, 900 gold was the Rebel Baron power play in the end. So not a massive amount, but a teleport in from Keen. Looks like Gen.G do want to fight for this Soul. Quadra Chemtech Soul is kind of crazy, as now Ruler might be in trouble. Does have the Featherstorm, but the Cease and Desist comes down. He finally gets that ulti through, as the flash out doesn't work, and the bottom lane are eviscerated. Canyon still trying to fight, gets the sticks ripped out of him though, and it's Faker that grabs the kill. A double for the Akali, and T1, they don't care about a dragon. They just want to kill all of Gen.G and win this game too, bringing us once again to a best of 3 for a ticket to MSI.
Keen does end up getting a kill onto Doran, and Chovy is buying time, but that mid Inhibitor is open, and Pays is going to end this game. There's no way Chovy can get back, and I think we are going to a 1-1 series here.
They're just escorting him, keeping him under lock so he can't get back to base. They'll push through with the super minions. He will eventually go down, and T1 will equalize the series.
A beautiful game from T1. There was a hiccup, a couple maybe, but they held strong, and man, Pays on this Kalista. What an incredible performance and a huge turnaround, honestly, from everyone.
And eventually, we're able to catch Ruler there in the end. Owner had a phenomenal Vi game. His flash Qs were out of control good, and were a huge part why they're able to close the game there, catching Ruler.
He's the one who found Ruler, and considering he's been the one who was under scrutiny for their most recent series, popping off here, that Vi Akali coming up big. But Pays on this Kalista, definitely the main character in this one.
Yeah, he's...
오케이. 여기 나와 있으면 걸 생각할게.
네, 여기 와드.
빠졌고.
와볼래?
야, 잠깐만.
애니비 아니야.
아래 애니비야.
애니비야 돼.
애니비야 저 이거 좋은데?
잘 이러면 잘 볼게.
좀 빨렸다.
잘. 나 뒤가 안 나.
괜찮아. 잡았어. 차에 잡았어.
여기 가. 알겠어. 좋다. 애니비 잡으러 갈게.
이게 요릭 사운드.
요리까지.
아래 좋아. 내가 애니비 지만 끊을게.
야, 이거 탈 거야. 아, 없다.
아, 미드라인
없다.
큐당충.
있다.
큐당충.
보고.
희망해.
미드 갈게. 야, 우리